Farseer El Alaran had spent the night wrestling with a slowly mounting sense of apprehension. While the last few cycles maintaining a guard around the Webway Portal had been uneventful, peaceful even, the atmosphere changed for the worst. Life in the jungle went on, much as it had for the past day, or week, or even century. Animals and birds cried out in the distance, and the steady hum of insects droned almost rhythmically around the Eldar, lulling the senses into an almost soporific state. If Alaran had felt a shift in the atmosphere, the jungle itself had not, or at least not yet, he mused. Reaching into his pouch, he withdrew a single wraithbone sigil. Raising it into the air and focusing his senses upon it, he calmed his mind. The rune gently floated upwards from his palm, rotating in the air. No indication of disturbance still. Unusual. His past experience, many millennia of such, had forewarned him that this sense of unease often preceded armed conflict. But in that case, the rune would also indicate the presence of others, their violent intentions disturbing its lazy orbit. Unless there was another psychic mind out there, monitoring them and cloaking the presence of foes from his prognostic rune. Better to be prepared, he mused, than be taken by surprise. Better to prepare and have spent the effort without need, rather than risk disaster. Holding this Webway Portal until necessary repairs to its crystalline matrix had been completed was vital. Without repairs, the seers of Craftworld Ulthwe had foreseen that a dark tide of foes would gain entry to places they should not. As much as he would prefer to spend his time in contemplation, sat amongst the crystal forms of his ancestors, this kind of excursion was necessary from time to time. El Alaran turned, and instantly the nearby aspect warriors gathered to him, as if they could sense his intent. Deploy for battle. I sense the presence of other minds, though they are shrouded to me. I fear they have designs upon this gate. Without a word, the aspect warriors dispersed into a nearby stand of trees, crouching down to avoid notice, while simultaneously maintaining a watch on the surrounding clearing. The rest of his force moved into place in the same instant. Warriors who moments before had appeared to have been lost in a daze, swaying gently in the fierce jungle heat, suddenly snapped into action, taking places amongst the rock formations and readying their weapons. It would have to do, he thought. He had not been able to bring a larger force with him. That would have been too much of a signal to others that there was a prize here worth taking. A handful of guardians from his craft world, split into two small groups. A support platform with a formidable heavy plasma gun. An ancient war walker, its pilot slowly rotating the barrels of its scatter laser, and the reassuring presence of the dreadnought Bel Tanoff. It was fortunate indeed that when he first mounted the expedition, aspect warriors of the Dire Avengers and Striking Scorpions had assembled with his force, without having been requested, as if their keen warrior senses had told them they would be needed. Or perhaps it was just a chance to demonstrate their skills in combat once again. With a thought, he reached again into the pouch and took out another rune, studying it intently. This one would be of use if they were harshly pressed. A failsafe, if broken, that would send out a signal, indicating their need. Reinforcements would come, he knew, if the rune were used, but better if they were not needed. Using the Webway gates further would attract more attention than there was already upon it, and would lead to inevitable escalation. Better that they could drive off whatever presence was here without it. Nearby, though not so near as to be detected, Slevixius smiled to himself, before exchanging a knowing look with the sorcerer Shobak Slittongue. Well, do they know we are here? Shobak cocked his head, as if listening. His tentacles writhed, as if tasting the air. No. At least they are not certain. But there is a seer with them. More powerful than I, though it pains me to admit it. The closer we are, the easier the glamour will fail. We have minutes, perhaps, not hours, before they are certain. Slevixius shrugged. No matter. The hosts are in position. There is no sense in waiting further, and I doubt they would do so. I, for one, do not have the patience. Several hours previously, Slevixius had split his host. He had been tasked by Kruult, that conniving old warlord, to take this Webway Portal. To tell the truth, he didn't really care about the objective. It would either fall into his hands, or it wouldn't. There would be pain and slaughter in the way, and that was what mattered. If he failed, well, there would be other opportunities, or he would be dead. If he succeeded, Kruult and Shobak had spoken about accessing the Webway, pillaging the ancient places of the Eldar, and of easy passage between worlds. So long as there was slaughter along the way, it mattered not to Slevixius. The host were ready for the kill, scenting the souls of the Eldar in the air. Close to Slevixius skulked Squad Allure and Drac the Cyclopean, the icon bearer. Opposite him, on the other side of the gate, he had sent his personal transport, the Palace of Indulgence, along with the speed-addicted bikers of Squad Temptation and the deranged killer Shavash the Blessed. It would do for the task at hand, and he knew as soon as the slaughter began, the Neverborn would appear, as always, to feast upon the pain and sorrow of his foes. He tapped his combead once and uttered a single word: "Move!" In an instant, the bikers of Squad Temptation accelerated to combat speed and skimmed around the foot of a bamboo-covered hill towards a group of guardians skulking within a patch of jungle. The lead bikers triggered their twin bolters. The guardians had clearly been alerted by the sound of engines and managed to evade every shot. The exalted champion Shavash chose a much more direct route towards the foe, sprinting up the side of the hill through the undergrowth. Nearby, the Palace of Indulgence, Slevixius' personal transport, started its engines and ground forward slowly, his crew on the lookout for targets. While they had been on orders to look out for large targets, such as Eldar walkers or vehicles, only a handful of Eldar infantry were visible, crouched within patches of jungle. The Land Rover's crew triggered their twin heavy bolter, smashing apart a pair of guardians in a volley of shells and scattering their remains across nearby palm fronds. A further guardian was cored by a flaring burst from a twin las cannon. The remaining two guardians held their nerve, despite the rather bloody demise of their companions. On the other side of the gate, Slevixius and Shobak advanced closer to the foe, though somewhat more cautiously. It would be folly to charge into the guns of the Eldar, at least before their numbers had been thinned somewhat. With a crack of energy, Squad Allure's heavy plasma gun spoke, sending an incandescent ball of plasma arcing across the field to smash apart the Eldar heavy support platform. The remaining members of Squad Allure blazed away at the same target, but in the aftermath of their volley, a single Eldar crewman still stood, somewhat dazed by the experience. Having dropped the glamour shielding the host from the Eldar, Shobak Sliptongue attempted to summon his powers to cast a Pavan of Slaanesh, but the more powerful mind of Farseer El Alaran swiftly dissipated the energy, following it up by invoking a blessing to bestow fortune upon the nearby aspect warriors. Clearly the Eldar had not been as fooled as to their presence as Shobak had previously thought. In response to the Chaos attack, the Warwalker pilot Antarok guided his machine forwards, skirting the edge of a nearby patch of jungle to line up a shot with the Chaos Land Raider. Nearby, the striking Scorpion aspect warriors repositioned deeper into the wood to wait for a suitable opportunity to ambush their adversaries. There was no sense in standing in the open to be mown down by heavy bolter fire. The remaining two Guardians on the same flank moved to get a better line of sight on the bikers of Squad Temptation, but were clearly too busy dodging incoming bolter fire, and their shots missed. With a signal from Farseer El Alaran, the dreadnought Beltanov advanced towards the bikers in support. As he strode forwards, he triggered his weapons, and an incandescent plasma bolt burst across the lead biker. To the astonishment of both the Eldar and Chaos Marine on the bike, the blast seemed to do no real damage. Raising his shuriken catapult, Beltanov sent a mind impulse to trigger the weapon, but clearly the long hours of sentry duty had dulled his connection to his material form as the weapon jammed. Next to Farseer El Alaran, the Dire Avengers advanced through the jungle to draw a line of sight on the veteran Chaos Marines and open fire on them with their shuriken catapults. Despite a number of hits, only superficial harm was done to the Chaos veterans' armour. As the Warwalker rounded the jungle, his pilot Antarok lined up his lascannon with the skull-faced abomination in front of him. A searing beam of light bored straight through the eye of the skull mounted on the vehicle's front, and seconds later there was a massive explosion as the tank's fuel reserves erupted, instantly killing the crew and sending the vehicle out of control. The psychic duel between El Alaran and Shobak continued, with El Alaran initially attempting to doom the sorcerer. With a mental pulse, Shobak reflected this away and countered with a Pavan of Slaanesh, which was in turn nullified by El Alaran. Sensing it was futile to keep attacking the Chaos Sorcerer, El Alaran turned his attention to the icon bearer Drak and unleashed a mind war, which would have melted the Chaos Champion's mind were it not for some quirk of fate which saved the corrupted being at the last moment, possibly an intervention from a dark patron, or perhaps the result of the malignant magics from his Eldritch banner. Sensing that he had been under some kind of attack, Drak incanted the rituals to unleash the powers of his warp banner and to summon forth the Neverborn. A trio of fiends slithered into existence, prancing and braying in delight at the opportunity to rend mortal flesh. Sensing delectable souls within their reach, they charged into the nearby Dire Avengers with a screech, unnerving the Aspect Warriors. Across the battlefield, Shavash triggered their stim injectors, and a potent cocktail of combat drugs flooded the Exalted Champion's bloodstream, quickening their movements. Shavash barreled down the hill, smashing through thickets of bamboo, and collided with an unexpected Guardian. In front of the Warwalker, the burning Land Raider moved out of control, colliding with a patch of jungle trees before it was racked with a further series of internal explosions. Drak the Cyclopean, the army icon bearer, ran forwards to join Shobak and Slevixius, while the veteran Chaos Marines of Squad Allure advanced out of cover, intent on gaining the Webway Gate. The bikers of Squad Temptation altered their target, realising the danger presented by the Eldar Dreadnought. However, the hasty melter-gun shot missed, and a crack grenade thrown by one of the bikers merely bounced off the Dreadnought's smooth carapace. In a blistering series of blows, Shavash the Blessed ripped the Guardian apart with his claw, and swiftly followed up into the remaining Guardian. Slowed by the soporific musk of the fiends, two of the Dire Avengers fell to their blows, cut by their claws or impaled on their poisoned tails. The third Avenger bested his foe and coolly lined up a las pistol shot to its glittering eye, but the blast was deflected at the last moment by the demon's aura. The mental duel between Psykers continued as Shobak lashed out with a beam of Slaanesh directed at El Alaran, but his mind proved too strong and he resisted the power. Drawing energy to himself, the Farseer countered by unleashing a Destructor, enveloping the Fiends, Dire Avengers, and the veterans of Squad Allure. As the wave of energy streamed forwards, all of the Eldar, Demons and Marines dodged aside, save for Vidget's Spike Skull, the unit champion, who keeled over as lightning cracked across his armour. Shobak once again summoned the Pavan of Slaanesh, directing its energy towards the nearby Guardians, but they resisted, the man strong enough to resist the urge to cavort and dance. Sensing that stopping, or even just slowing Shavash could be critical to victory, the striking Scorpions advanced towards the champion, two of their number making it into combat. The remaining Guardian squad and the Warwalker advanced towards the Chaos Veterans, determined to cut them down before they could reach the Webway Portal. While the Warwalker could not yet draw a clear line of sight, the Guardians levelled their shuriken catapults and let fly. Razor-sharp Wraithbone discs sliced through power armour as if it were butter, slaying the entirety of Squad Allure in a single volley. Nearby, Beltanov the Dreadnought advanced again towards the bikers. While a further blast from his heavy plasma gun proved as ineffective as the first, the same could not be said for the jet of incendiary chemicals unleashed from his underslung flamer, which fried the pilot of the lead bike. In combat, despite their best efforts, Shavash the Blessed easily outmatched his opponents, slicing apart not just the remaining Guardian, but also the both striking Scorpions that had been foolish enough to believe they could best him in a duel. Two more Dire Avengers fell in combat to the Fiends, leaving only a single warrior left alive. In a stunning display of combat acrobatics, he bested the Fiend, dodging below its claws and delivered a series of blows to break the creature's hold on the material realm. El Alaran once again summoned the incredible power of Mind War, directing his thoughts towards Zhobak directly. With a screech, the sorcerer slumped to one knee, blood trickling from his ears, before managing to stand once more, swaying on his feet. El Alaran used this moment of respite to drain the psychic energy from across the battlefield, temporarily stopping further demonic incursions and dispelling both the Fortune and Destructor. The out-of-control and flaming bike from Squad Temptation smashed into Beltanov's frame, but the ancient warrior showed no signs of damage and swept the wreckage aside. Momentarily distracted, the spirit warrior did not notice until too late that Shavash had closed with him. The two remaining fiends charged the Lone Dire Avenger and Farseer El Alaran, exhilarated by the possibility of such a delectable soul falling into their claws. Zhobak and Slevixius continued their advance towards the Webway Portal, levelling shots at the Guardians, but with no effect. Assuming that Shavash could take care of the Dreadnought, the bikers once again switched targets, blasting apart a Guardian in a hail of bolter shells. Once again, the remaining Dire Avenger showed his ability, dispatching the Fiend with ease with a loud pistol blast. El Alaran slew the last Fiend with a casual swing of his Witchblade, the demon's aura no match for his shimmering sword. Beltanov attempted to grasp Shavash in a mighty gauntlet, but the champion, still fueled by his combat drugs, was much too fast, and in a flurry of blows, sheared the Dreadnought's leg from its frame, sending Beltanov crashing to the ground. Realizing the situation was becoming desperate, El Alaran reached into his pouch and snapped a Wravebone rune in two. A psychic pulse leapt through the Webway gate, signalling the need for reinforcements to hold back the Chaos Tide. With a thought, he once again summoned a blessing to cast Fortune upon himself and the nearby warriors. The three remaining striking Scorpions charged into Shavash, dodging over Beltanov's fallen frame to confront the exalted champion. The gemstones on the Webway gate pulsed, and a figure appeared as if striding out of a haze, as a further dreadnought appeared to reinforce Eldar lines. Al-Antar had been waiting on the other side of the portal, just in case of such a situation, and quickly made his presence known to the Chaos forces, as a rippling burst of energy from his plasma cannon set a biker's fuel tank ablaze, sending it out of control. The four remaining Guardians once again advanced upon the trio of Chaos characters, unleashing a volley of shuriken discs, one of which sunk deep into Slevixius' armour, drawing a groan of pain and pleasure from him. In the combat between Shavash and the Scorpions, the champion quickly dispatched two of the Aspect Warriors with blows from his mutated claw. The remaining Scorpion rained blows down upon Shavash with his chainsword, but could not find a chink in the champion's armour. El Alaran once again attempted to engage Zhobak with Mind Warp, but the coruscating psychic energies had drawn the attention of warp entities. A claw slit the barrier between the material and immaterial realms, attempting to drag the seer into the warp. El Alaran smoothly dodged the arm and sealed the crack in reality with a single word. Zhobak once again attempted to cast a Pavan of Slaanesh upon the Guardians. The warriors of Ulthwe were made of sterner stuff than he had anticipated, and the enchantment failed to affect their minds. Summoning further energy to himself, El Alaran unleashed a crackling destructor directly at Slevixius, causing the champion to scream out in agony as the lightning reaved his armour. Amongst the roiling waves of psychic power, 6 demonettes emerged from the warp, ready to dance and slay. The out-of-control bike veered off to smash into a cactus, while the two remaining bikers decided to enact a hit-and-run attack on the dreadnought Al-Anatar. The dreadnought was clearly much more aware of his surroundings than Beltanov had been, and swept both Chaos Marines from the saddle as they jetted past him, crushing them together in his fists. The freshly summoned demonettes charged the Guardians and the Warwalker with a screech. Drak and Slevixius joined in the melee, Drak barreling into El Alaran, while Slevixius charged the Guardian, crushing the warrior in his fist. The demonettes made short work of the remaining Guardians, slicing them apart in a series of blows with their cruel crab-like claws. 3 more of their number mobbed the Warwalker, and tore the pilot from his seat, ripping him apart and flinging the pieces across the blood-stained earth as the Warwalker crashed to the ground. With a flick of his wrist, El Alaran swept his Witchblade through Drak the Cyclopean's leg, smashing the icon bearer to the ground and leaving him to bleed out. Zhobak the Sorcerer once again attempted to cast the Pavan of Slaanesh at El Alaran, the ancient seer resisted the temptations of Slaanesh. Shavash turned and easily slew his final opponent. As he made to charge the newly arrived dreadnought, the drug dispensers attached to his armour ran out, and he staggered as his system began to crash from the withdrawal symptoms. The dreadnought Al-Anatar levelled his plasma cannon, overcharging the weapon and enveloping Shavash in a burst of blinding energy. As the light cleared, Shavash emerged unharmed. In the melee around the Webway gate, El-Alaran smoothly dispatched a demonette and with a backswing sunk his blade deep into Slevixius, but only moments before followed up into him after killing a guardian. The Chaos Warlord sank to his knees with a groan. Sensing the battle had turned against them, and lacking the numbers to take the gate, Shobak Slittongue signalled to the remaining Chaos forces that they should retreat, for now at least. In the aftermath of the battle, the few survivors of El-Alaran's command gathered by the Webway gate, dragging the body of Slevixius with them. While it was potentially unwise to allow the Chaos Warlord to live, El-Alaran needed information and steeled his mind before unleashing a mental bore into Slevixius' forts. Several hundred kilometers away, Kruult Lewdmaimer surveyed the host gathered beneath him. Trumpets and sirens blared as the great host advanced, streams of land raiders and rhinos carrying warriors of the Emperor's Children Legion alongside corrupted knights of House Divine. A pack of Questor and Subjugator scout titans pranced in the shadow of the Warlord Titan Flesh Scourger, its heavy footfall shaking the ground.